I've started out by setting my work plane to 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters so that it matches my MakerBot sketch build plate. And I've also put out some cubes to help me with size referencing. So I have a 3 centimeter, 2 centimeter, and 1 centimeter cube. And those will just help me visualize the size that I want my game token to be. I've saved some objects to my favorites. You can click the little star when you're browsing through the objects gallery, and this will put the objects into your favorites so that they're easy for you to find later. This particular object was in the featured collections. I thought it was cool and would make a perfect base design for my game token. Because it's a base object in Tinkercad, it can't be scaled, so I can't make it any different size than this. I'm stuck with the sizing that it is, which if I look at my cubes in the background works out okay. It's a little taller than 3 centimeters, but it's only about 4 centimeters squared in area, so I think this will be a good size for a game token. Now the ruler tool can come in really handy when I'm looking at 3D printing an object, so I'm just going to place it on the corner of the arcade game here, and then click on the game to get those measurements to pop up. What I want to look for when I'm printing something is this measurement right here, which shows me that there's a 2 millimeter overhang up top. So a 2 millimeter overhang should be okay for 3D printing. I won't need to put any support material underneath that. But if I saw much more than that there, I would want to put some support materials underneath to support that up as it is printing. Or I might want to look at printing this object in a different orientation with one of the other faces towards the build plate to make sure that that overhang doesn't end up drooping down and destroying my print. So I'm going to use the work plane tool to start building on my object. So I'm working in some pretty small space here. This is just a 2 centimeter object, yet these natural objects in the gallery are quite huge. So it's going to place this standing upright on my work plane that I made on the front of the arcade machine. So my first job will be to just shrink this down nice and small so that it's a much better size for putting on the front of this machine. I want to, of course, rotate it so that it's facing the right direction. We're looking for 90 degrees. And I'm going to make it even smaller so that it can fit right here on the front of the arcade. I'm just going to adjust my snap to a little bit smaller so that I can adjust that more finely and get it right where I want it. And then I'm going to thin it down because it certainly doesn't need to be that thick. And then move it down a little bit. So it lifted off my work plane because of the rotation. But as long as I set it to be at 0, then I know that it's sitting right on the arcade machine. That looks good. So we'll just go ahead and use the work plane tool on all of the surfaces of this little arcade machine that I want to put some decorative items on. Work through each one, clicking on the work plane each time so that I can adjust that space that I'm putting the item on. Rotate objects as needed, resize, and just get them put into place. So I'm all done. And now I've pulled out the ruler tool so that I can check this object for printing. So here's that 2 millimeter overhang that I knew was there. We want to look at some of the other overhangs because I've created some elements that are going to stick out beyond this. So I'm going to group the whole thing together so that now when I use my ruler, it's using all of the little attached objects on my arcade machine in these measurements as well. I can turn things around and use the ruler on different corners of the object as well so that I can check those overhangs on each side and make sure nothing is hanging out too far to print successfully. close the ruler view that I have, spin around, click on the ruler button up top, and then place the ruler on this corner to see what the overhang is here. So this @ sign is overhanging 1.3 millimeters, which is perfectly fine. Continue on to check my other side. And again, I see that my overhang here should be just fine. Ready for export.